From Curtis 50 Cent Jackson and the executive producers of Power comes the final season of Force. Tommy Egan is back, and he's going all in. Turf wars, betrayal, and chaos erupt. Will he finally become the kingpin of Chicago? Watch the explosive season premiere now, only on Stars and the Stars app. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. PrizePicks takes your weekend to a new level. We're talking easy stuff. You know what you're doing. More or less, like Saquon Barkley, more or less than one rushing touchdown. Games with Patrick Mahomes, more or less than 2.5 passing touchdowns. You know what we're talking about. We're playing fantasy. We're playing DFS. Jump in the PrizePicks app. You will not regret it. It makes the weekend so much more fun, and it's really easy to do. Just download the PrizePicks app today and use code DFS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code DFS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome on in. It's Friday, November 7th here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew Do You Believe Betz.
This is so stupid, man. So stupid. Either genius or stupid. We don't know which one yet. Well, Kyle's referring to, and you know, because we're recording this Thursday evening, whether or not the Broncos handled their business. And right now we're in a good mood. That could change come Friday morning as this comes out.
I hate being nervous.
Depending on what happens in Thursday Night Football, which happened obviously last night. So yeah, we'll see. But we'll talk through some other survivor options today if you do not have or didn't have the Broncos available to you. Yeah, on the Tuesday show, we shared if anything changes throughout the week, we will pivot and let you know. Nothing has changed. We stuck with the Broncos and the wildly inconsistent Bo Nix. I'm going to ask this question, but what could go wrong?
I don't understand if it could go wrong, but there's people listening that understand how it could go wrong or right. So, you know, you're in the future, people. We are stuck in the past, just stuck in how things were, like 12 hours ago. So we'll hopefully come up to speed. On this podcast, we will give our cash picks for week 10, there's a lot of games, so we're going to preview 4 games today, moving a little bit quicker than we usually do, but preview 4 games that we think you can stack up this week, reveal our slate breakers, prop like it's hot, and then, yeah, we do have a couple other survivor options. If you are still live, it's week 10. Hopefully you still have a couple of teams that are really, really good in your back pocket that you can use. But if you want all of our picks, DraftKings, FanDuel, you can get them at dfspass.com. You can use the promo code DFSPod if you want to. And we haven't even talked about this, but there was some, movings and shakings in the betting and DFS world in the last day with one of the big companies out there. And I don't know, just what's your general reaction to, we started hosting this podcast 5 or 6 years ago, and the influx of different sportsbook conversations, the influx of what's big, what matters, it's changed so much over the years where we've tried to stay true to DFS, and then we've made sure that people play props the right way. But I don't know, I guess my reaction this morning when I was reading the news is does anybody know what they're doing and they have billions of dollars just throwing around?
What you're referring to, if you missed it, ESPN Sportsbook, or ESPN Bet, I guess is what it's called now, is going to be...
RIP?
RIP is going to be rebranded and no longer what it is today as of December 1st, I believe. So, yeah, it's so wild. The sports betting world has gotten so different over the years. Where even 4 or 5 years ago, remember props were kind of just starting to be a thing, and not every state had legalized gambling, and not every state still does, but most do. And it was kind of this hush hush taboo thing that was kind of publicly viewed by other people as frowned upon. Now it's impossible to watch any commercial of any pro sporting event baseball, basketball, football. Everybody is hyping up DraftKings Sportsbook, FanDuel Sportsbook. Like, companies are putting so much money into this to get new users and offering boosts on same game parlays and welcome bonuses and all these things. It's all about customer acquisition. And I feel like the way things have gone with, Penn and ESPN Bet has kind of been a train wreck.
An absolute disaster.
It's a disaster. Yeah. So if you play on that book and you no longer wish to, just kind of monitor the news on what's going on there. They will have a new rebranded, group there. But yeah, December 1st, times are changing. But just to kind of go back to the home point here, like, it's wild to think about, like, back in the day, like, if you're like, oh, I'm gonna put a little money on this game tonight. Your friends, maybe even like, people, like, if your parents are still around and they're like, oh, that seems wildly inappropriate and now
irresponsible.
Yeah, and now it's like, oh, you don't have any action on this game tonight? Like, that's weird. So it's just crazy, man, how far things have changed even in the last 3, 4, 5 years since we've been doing this. Yeah, so it's wild to see where it's gotten. I'm really interested to see, like, what the prop betting space looks like in a year, 2 years. Like, obviously the NBA's had their issues, and we'll see if any other sports have issues coming out here, but the menu has gotten so big. Like, think about what you can bet on now. Like, some of the menu of props you can get on, like, the third or fourth wide receiver on a team. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, how are books able to price this stuff? So yeah, the menu is crazy. The acquisition for customers is crazy. It's a slippery slope, but we hope that listening to this show, like, you guys kind of get what we think is the right process and how to handle it and manage your bankroll and not just kind of waste money. But yeah, it's wild, man. The prop betting space and sports betting space has changed a ton recently.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, at the start you mentioned it was acquiring new users, and for a lot of people this is fun, this is new. Ooh, I can throw $10 or whatever. A lot of users, that's what it's going to be. Over time, that begins to wear, because the people that started with the bankroll are like, this isn't great for me, or I don't have the time that I used to if people have kids. And it's interesting because the DFS product for a lot of these has very little attention anymore. And you're even seeing that in some of the engagement of what a double up is. So when we talk about double ups and 50-50s, those used to be 10,000 strong every single week, but the largest one you're finding now is about 5,000. It doesn't mean that DFS is dead, because like FanDuel has actually given a lot of attention to their DFS product recently, where Best Ball spent a lot of time this summer, DraftKings spent a lot of time with Best Ball this summer, kind of jumping in there. We, Betz and I, want to make sure that wherever you play, however you play in a smart way, play in a way that actually fits your bankroll, and a way that can be profitable and fun long term. But there are so many different offerings out there that when I see news like this, I had to bring it up, because it's like, I don't think people realize that billion-dollar organizations don't know what they're doing. They are gambling with their own money on a gambling site, and they completely bottomed out. The largest sports conglomeration of all time, ESPN, really just bottomed out. And I was joking earlier. I said, if you would have told, my 10-year-old self was like, ESPN is the best thing that has ever happened. They're the smartest thing. It's the greatest thing in the history of the world, ESPN. And now it's like, I love ESPN. I love some people there. But man, what a misuse of money in this space.
Yeah, they lost like $1 billion in the last couple of years with this. And look, you get over your ex pretty quick sometimes. within minutes
Yes.
of announcing the fact that ESPN Bet will be no longer a thing. Literally minutes. They announced they are partnering with DraftKings as like the official provider of ESPN. So when you're logged into the ESPN app, when you're watching ESPN Monday Night Football, stuff like that, like, they will show, here are the DraftKings lines. So yeah, it's wild, man. $1 billion just down the tubes, and now we're moving on. And within minutes, they announce a new partnership. So yeah, it's wild times out there.
It makes you feel less bad if you're out there and you placed your parlay and you're like, man, that didn't hit. Well, this company tried to place $1 billion parlay and they lost it all. But they're right back at it. Anyway, just thought I'd touch on that, but moving on.
Straight cash, homie.
If you want to have more conversations like that, our props and DFS channel that we have, part of our Ballers Discord, I think is a great place. Like, I love having those discussions, not to say, hey, this is right, this is wrong, but just more of like get a zoomed out view. I think a lot of times people are just placing bets, they're playing DFS, and they forget, like, what is this industry doing? It's not as forward thinking as you think. They're trying to acquire users, but there's some stuff they are literally just throwing spaghetti at the wall, and they're trying to make it work. So anyway, let's start this week. We're talking about cash. Our plays that look like they are the best right now from a points per dollar perspective, which you can find in the DFS Pass. I think you can spend up for Josh Allen at $7K if you want to, because, well, he projects really, really well. And I don't know if you've heard this before, because I've only mentioned it 38 times. He kills the Dolphins in his career. He's 14-2, including the playoffs. Bets in 16 career games. He has 43 passing touchdowns against the Dolphins. So I think you can spend up this week, but I think there's a lot of other options lower that will be more common in cash. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, Josh Allen will be in some cash lineups.
Yeah, I think the one thing I have a question for, maybe you can kind of help me think through this. James Cook right now, we're not sure on his status. He missed Wednesday. He was seen at practice Thursday, probably going to be limited, but certainly battling an ankle issue. If he sits in this game, do you think the Bills trend more pass heavy? Because they have been, I think it's 26th in neutral pass rate over the last month. Like, they just aren't really throwing the ball with volume. Do you think they go more pass heavy? And if they do, then do we see more scrambling from Josh Allen? He hasn't really scrambled and run that much, like especially design runs. We're not getting that much from Allen this year. You'll still get some goal line carries and stuff like that, obviously. So I think it's more just kind of thinking through like nitpicking at the top. And if they are going to throw more, then like, yeah, I'm interested in Josh Allen, especially if the field's going to play. I'm like, I don't want to get buried by Allen in this spot, especially considering the Dolphins just traded away Jalen Phillips, really struggling to rush the passer, and they also have Chop Robinson in concussion protocol. So you think about what he's going against. Lamar Jackson last week on Thursday night was able to just kind of do whatever he wanted from the pocket, didn't even really have to run. And so I do think we could see an efficiency performance here from Josh Allen, but I do struggle to see a ton of pass volume, which has kind of been the story with Josh Allen all year.
Yeah, but that's the thing with him is you can look at the efficiency. Like last week, 88% completion rate against the Chiefs. I don't need a crazy amount of volume when, you kind of figure like there's also another opportunity for him to score at the goal line. It's not out of the question for him to throw two, run in one, and them to take care of business on the road. So yeah, I do consider an uptick in passing volume for him. So he's kind of the top tier if you want to spend up there. Lamar as well. I think you can play either of those two in cash. You might want to save. And if you want to save this week, you can go all the way down to Marcus Mariota at 5.3. Yeah,
for sure. It's kind of tricky. Like, I wish they had Terry McLaurin in there, but even considering kind of what Mariota has done without McLaurin in the lineup this year, he is tied as QB 10 in fantasy points per dropback. They're giving him design rushing attempts. They're taking on the Lions. Historically, over the last few years, teams are going to have to throw on the Lions. I think this is a spot where Dan Campbell and the boys come out and hang a huge number on Washington. The defense is just depleted. The Lions are 12-0 under Dan Campbell, coming off of a loss. So I think they come out and they've kind of openly, publicly talked about this too. Jared Goff has, this is the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year. There's a little bit of a revenge narrative here. So I think Mariota is certainly pushed in this spot in a negative game script. So I don't think it'll be pretty. I don't think it'll be highly efficient, but I do think you'll see enough pass volume, and I think you'll see enough rushing from him. Just for context, in 3 games this year, without Jane Daniels, he has rushing stat lines of 641, 220 and 0. Okay, that's not great. 828 and 0. And then last year in the games that he played the majority of the snaps, 11 carries for 34 yards and 5 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown. So you do have a pretty high ceiling as a rusher here, which is really what I'm looking for at Mariota. And he's cheap enough that you're not really asking him to break the slate anyway.
Yeah, the other cheap quarterbacks that I at least need to mention, Mac Jones, if he's the starter, is 5K. So that's a cheap tag. Jacoby Brissett, seen a lot of volume from him, 4,600. Another tag that I could see it make work. So here's my question. Do you think the field is going to look at these options, the 4 or 5 options around the 5K range, and just say, I'm going to pick my favorite? I feel like the field all kind of likes these, maybe like one over the other, and I just assume that that's what the field's going to do.
I think it depends on how strong you feel about the top of the price pool this week, because there's 3 wide receivers that are in unbelievable spots. Like, any one of Amon-Ra, Puka, JSN, you could talk me into. I think those three, it's a really tough decision. So I think you should play one of them in your lineup this week. We'll talk through the spots for each of them, those guys. And then if you want to fit CMC, it's really hard to play Josh Allen, McCaffrey, and at least one of the studs at the top for wide receivers. So my inclination right now is to probably spin down at quarterback, but I don't feel great about that if the field is going to play Josh Allen because we know what he can do, especially in this matchup.
At running back this week, right now, when I built my lineup, Devon Achane is in my lineup. 7,400, the perfect mix of everything we've talked about. He's the RB5 on the season. He's been a top 17 running back every single week. Only running back in football to be able to do that. So he feels really solid in cash. CMC is really expensive. Like I'm having a hard time fitting him in and also saying I'm going to grab Puka or JSN this week. I also like Trey McBride. So I'm running into a pricing issue already in my lineups. I do have to ask you about Rico Two Pumps, aka Rico Dowdle.
I mean, hey, if we're all in this together and Rico is healthy, which he was back at practice on Thursday, I mean, isn't there anything better than everyone that listens to this show that plays him in DFS? As soon as he falls in the end zone, you stand up off your couch, you give the 2 pumps, and you just know everyone listening to this show is doing the exact same thing as you. I mean, there's a community aspect to this, Kyle. So could you imagine not playing Rico Dowdle this week? Couldn't be me.
I'm with you, and I think it's one of those things where, that people have theorized, like if we all jumped at the same time around the planet, like what would happen? What actually would happen if everybody in the US of A just was doing 2 pumps at the same time?
Remember, not 3 though. Just 2.
Oh gosh, no.
Just
no,
2. Yeah, for context on Rico, in all seriousness, of course, entering last week, there were some questions. Like, they said they were going to go with him, but are they actually going to? Canales held true to his word. He outtouched Chuba Hubbard 27-5 last week, played 42 snaps to Chuba's 13. So he literally was the true bell cow. He's 3rd in the NFL in rushing right now, and he hasn't even been a starter for the entire season. So Rico is playing incredibly well. You get the Saints. They are favored at home by 5.5 points. Like, how often are the Panthers going to be favored by almost a touchdown this year? There aren't going to be many spots on the calendar for that. So this looks awesome. And then you consider like the Tyler Shuck, systemic risks where the other team, as we saw last week with the Rams, can just rip off a ton of play volume because they can't convert on 3rd down and they can't sustain drives and all those things. So I do love Rico in this spot. Just assuming that he gets positive health reports in Friday's practice, I think he's one of the first guys in this week.
Yep. In 3 games with 20-plus opportunities, he's averaged only 173 rushing yards.
What a bum.
I know. But, yeah, I can't wait. I'm just going to be standing in front of my TV. I hope my family just, asks if there's something wrong with me. I feel like my wife will, if I teach the 2 pumps to one of my sons, she's going to be very disappointed.
Oh, that's a great father-son moment right there, isn't
it?
Well,
I'm excited to tell my kids about Hingle McCringleberry. They're going to like that part too.
Of course.
They're going to think that's great. I do want to mention some other running backs. So Achane, McCaffrey, Dowdle, probably our favorites. Derrick Henry, we'll talk about him in just a second. What do you do there? We will wait on news about the Bills running backs. So that will be reflected in our best plays on Saturday if we are in the mood for some Ray Davis. The price keeps catching my eye, but it's Dave Montgomery at $5K. I mean, we were playing Travion Henderson last week at $4,900. So at $5K, I'm looking at Dave Montgomery, who is still getting the carries inside the 5. He's got 10 this season over Gibbs' 6. Washington's rush defense is pretty soft. They're 25th in yards after contact. They have the second highest total of the week. So if you're not playing Amon-Ra, he's kind of the cheapest way to get there in cash if you want a Lion in there. So is he on the radar?
I hadn't really considered him, honestly, before you brought it up, but the price does make a lot of sense, especially when you put the context around it of hey, we just played Travion Henderson at, the same price, basically. The only concern for me with Detroit in cash, generally speaking, is it a Gibbs game? Is it a Laporta game? I know sometimes Jameson Williams will disappear randomly throughout the season, aka the entire season. So it's one of those that I don't feel so locked in that it's going to be him, but the price does reflect it. So it's not the worst thing I've heard in the world. I personally don't think I'll go there in cash, but I feel like he'll be pretty low roster in tournaments, with everybody flocking to CMC and Achane and Rico. So yeah, that's an interesting look for sure in tournaments for me.
Dude, I heard you say that's not the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It's not. I mean, you recommended one time in our show's history to play Mike Glennon. And that might have been the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Dude, somebody cashed that week easily. Slowly, that's going to fade away from our show's consciousness.
I will never let it. I will never let it.
Wide receivers, JSN and Puka, Amon-Ra. I'd love to play two of them. Do you think it's possible to fit two of these guys in your lineup?
If we get Ray Davis, it is possible. You also can't play Trey McBride, and you will have to not punt, but you have to spend down at quarterback into the low 5K range. So it's possible, but you're probably sacrificing McCaffrey to do it. It's tough. I really honestly don't know which one I want to play because, I mean, the Commanders their season is over, basically. They have a horrible secondary as is. They also have injuries in the secondary. The Lions are going to put up a huge number here. I feel very confident in that. Puka is a lock for 7, 8, 9 catches every week and the 100-yard bonus. It may be a touchdown, but he is dealing with the chest/rib issue. So if you want to poke holes, like you could argue, maybe that's a thing. And then JSN at the top, man, like he is basically Puka as far as his role. So I honestly don't know what is the right answer. And I'm hoping, Kyle, that you will shed light on it here for me because I wrote up in my article JSN, but if you told me you prefer Puka, fine. If you prefer Amon-Ra, fine. If we get the cheap Bills running back, I would love to try to play both. I think these three guys are probably all going to have great, if not, you needed them kind of games.
I have seen the future, so I can give you this piece of information. You will probably guess wrong.
Yes, that is accurate.
That's exactly how it feels. When I was looking at my cash line, I was like, man, I'm going to miss out on somebody. So obviously in tournaments, you can play them. I think you could also look a different way if you want to spend down a little bit more.
Rookie sensation, wide receiver out of Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka.
7K. We'll talk about that game in just a second, but Egbuka is going to project really well. I know that he's going to end up in our best plays. Don't like him as much as the other guys. The Giants wide receivers, I have circled as maybe Wan'Dale Robinson 5.3, Slayton 4.3. They're really hard clicks just because you know who those players are. It's a great matchup, so we'll talk about them in a second. But I think if you had a Giants wide receiver in cash, nothing wrong with that. Juwan Jennings is probably the easiest from a points per dollar perspective at 4,600. I'm seeing him show up in a lot of optimals.
Yeah, he's cheap. He was 4,400 last week, came through with a touchdown. Didn't have the best usage. I think he only had 5 targets, but this is a spot where you think about the Rams and kind of when they played the Niners last time, that was the Kendrick Bourne turned into, the best wide receiver of all time game. And Mac Jones pulled off the shocking upset on Thursday night. I think the Rams will correct that and put up points here and kind of push San Francisco. So if they do that and they have to throw, Juwan Jennings obviously would benefit. The tricky thing is I also think George Kittle is cash viable this week. He's pretty cheap. And then, as we mentioned already, and every week, McCaffrey. So I definitely don't want 3 Niners in cash. So certainly that's a decision point. But Juwan Jennings absolutely makes your player pool, especially with Ricky Pearsall still recovering from the knee injury.
All right, at tight end, I'm going to lay it out for you this way. If you want to spend up, Trey McBride. If you want to spend a little less, it's George Kittle. If you want to spend a little bit less than that, we have Hunter Henry.
Yeah, Hunter Henry is the least sexy play on the entire slate. but you kind of know what you're getting. We think the Patriots are certainly going to have to throw a lot in this matchup against the Bucs. Most teams do. They struggle to run the football. Ramondre's not healthy. And Kayshon Boutte is missing practice. So if we get no Kayshon Boutte and, we open up some targets there for Hunter Henry, it makes sense. It wouldn't be surprising if he goes 2 for 24, because that's what these tight ends tend to do. But he also has had some pop-up games here for some big performances as well. I do love the spot for Drake May. We didn't even mention it. I think you can play Drake May in cash if you wanted. But I like the stack this week with May and Hunter Henry. So yeah, if you're looking for a cheap guy, that's my preference.
At defense, I think people will spend down below the 3K range. It's a little different than some of the other slates where we had, 3 or 4 teams and, 3,600 or higher that people are paying up for. So I think it's the Browns at 2,900 against the team called the Jets. That's still playing this year. That's the problem with Aaron Glenn. He didn't realize that they are locked in for 17 games this year.
He didn't want to be here all season?
He wants to. I don't know if he will be allowed to. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But the Browns, I think, are at a good spot. The Jaguars, if you want to spin down a little further, at 2,600 against Davis Mills.
Old Davis.
The pride of GAC, Greater Atlanta Christian School, which is about 10 minutes from my house.
Oh, Georgia boy.
Yep. So those are the defenses.
Yeah, Davis Mills is not great. We last saw him as like a starter in 2022 before they drafted CJ Stroud. He, in that season, started 15 games. He threw 59 interceptions. So you do the math on that one, buddy. He came in last week in relief, completed 57% of his passes for 4.6 YPA. Granted, it was the Broncos, which is obviously a very difficult matchup. But the Jaguars can certainly rush the passer. Houston's offensive line has been an issue all year. The total is 37.5, so Vegas is not expecting either side to have much success. So I do like the Jaguars for cash. I also think if you wanted to flip it and in tournaments, play the Texans defense against Trevor Lawrence, probably without Brian Thomas Jr., that would make a lot of sense to me in that spot. So both these defenses are very strong this week.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
From Curtis 50 Cent Jackson and the executive producers of Power comes the final season of Force. Tommy Egan is back, and he's going all in. Turf wars, betrayal, and chaos erupt. Will he finally become the kingpin of Chicago? Watch the explosive season premiere now, only on Stars and the Stars app.
Traditions are a funny thing. They're why we tailgate in the pouring rain, wear full body paint, and refuse to wash that lucky jersey. And just like in football, tradition is what inspires us at Tostitos to make our masa the traditional way, starting with whole corn kernels. No artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. Crafted for that perfect crunch. Tostitos. Tradition matters. Official chip and dip sponsor of the NFL.
Stack Attack.
All right, Betz, we've got 4 games that we're going to talk up on this podcast. So I need you to buckle up to get ready. The first one we're going to talk about is the Baltimore Ravens at the Minnesota Vikings. Right now, the line is Baltimore minus 4.5. The over-under is at 48.5. It's a good spot for Lamar because in 4 starts this year, 4 full starts, 40 points, 41 points, 30, 28. The Ravens are interesting because they play really slow. They're 28th in seconds per play, 31st in plays per game. But it kind of doesn't really matter because Lamar's so efficient, so he can kind of make up for some of those issues. So the Ravens are back. Their defense is also back. So a healthier Ravens is kind of something that we had been talking about for a couple weeks and talked about with Lamar and MVP odds. But they go to Minnesota to face your boy, JJ McCarthy, or his alter ego, 9. Have you seen him talk about this?
I did. The video of Kevin O'Connell like hyping him up after the win last week. I mean, I think JJ has the dog. He looked ferocious is the word? I don't know.
See, here's the thing with me. It does the opposite for me.
Oh, you don't like it?
It's, to me, like I like that he's excited. He's starting to move into he's a try-hard.
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah, let's start on the Vikings side of the ball. The scripted plays in the first quarter for JJ McCarthy went very well. Outside of that, it was kind of a lot of the issues we saw early on, like very inconsistent, kind of, unable to really stay on schedule, that type of stuff. If you look at the matchup on the season, this looks like an unbelievable spot for the pass game and honestly for the entire offense for the Vikings. I will caution everybody, again, that was with backups on the field for most of the season. As of this recording, knock on wood, nobody gets hurt in practice as we record this on Thursday. The Ravens do not have a single player on the injury report. This is the healthiest they have been the entire season. They got a guy on IR, but this is the healthiest version of the Ravens we've seen this season. And I do find it notable that the spread moved from 3.5 to 4.5 over the last, day or two. So I'm willing to see the path where the Vikings can get there and kind of, maybe volume their way in a negative game script. The problem is I don't think JJ McCarthy is built to do that right now. And if you follow their moves all offseason, right, they invested in the offensive line, bring in Jordan Mason, They talk a lot about like getting the balance going here. So like Kevin McConnell's offense, of years past was like, oh, they're going to chuck in this spot. I don't think they want to do that. So I struggle to see the Vikings holding up their side of this matchup is personally how I feel.
Yeah, the one area where I think you could get a little sneaky is if Aaron Jones is ruled out. I do think Jordan Mason's kind of interesting. The Ravens are 30th in rush success rate on inside tackles, 26 in yards after contact, 26 in EPA per rush. He's a sneaky large field play only. But yeah, I'm not stacking up McCarthy. As cheap as he is, dude, he's a wild card in the pocket. As like great as he looks on some plays, and Troy Aikman, whoever it was basically just like over the top saying like, this guy throws outside the pocket better than anybody I've seen.
I haven't seen it.
No, okay, so it was the Vikings and Lions game. So it was Tom Brady, actually. It was Brady is actually saying like outside the pocket. I've never seen somebody rip it like this.
What does that guy know about football?
I know. The problem with McCarthy is just holds on the ball a long time. So on the Vikings side, Jefferson's really the only one who's going to be played. I think Addison you can certainly throw in a large field tournament as a bring back from Lamar stacks. But really what we're looking at here is how are we stacking up the Baltimore side? We talked about Lamar a lot this week. The Vikings, the way that they play defense, Brian Flores, their defensive coordinator, it's a lot of two-eye safety looks. They blitz a ton, and they generate a lot of pressure from doing that. That's cool. Lamar this year against the blitz has the highest pass rating in the entire NFL. It doesn't work when you bring extra pressure there. So I think Lamar is just a strong play through and through. Zay Flowers, therefore, is going to get clicked a lot, even though he's had mostly floor games. Like Zay Flowers is a solid play in this game. So what else are you seeing on the Ravens side that where you want to go?
Yeah, for context on Flowers, you mentioned the blitz. When Lamar has been blitzed this year, Flowers leads the Ravens in target share at 31%. So I do think he's an interesting play this week. I know people always give him a hard time, or the sentiment in fantasy is like, yeah, he's fine, but he doesn't really have like that much ceiling. Any week, anything can happen, right? So like if you think that this is a spot where they do blitz Lamar a lot and they're trying to get the ball out quick, to me, that would lead to a Zay spot. So I do like the Lamar to Zay skinny. You hope Lamar runs more. He's healthier than he was last week and the week prior. So I like that look quite a bit. The other alternative for me that I see a path for, we talked about this on Tuesday, is like, Lamar's touchdown rate right now is just obscenely outlier, unsustainable. If the touchdowns start to swing back to Derrick Henry and the spread is right here and they are able to win this game and, control the clock and feed Derrick Henry, I really like this spot for him because he's not in cash conversation, right? He's 6,800 on DK, he's 8,400 on FanDuel. I think he'll be like 10, 12, 13%, something like that. But he's not going to be what Achane and all these other guys are. So I do think he's a really nice pivot for tournaments, especially if you think the Vikings do struggle here, which I personally do. So my angle is either Lamar to Zay or Derrick Henry. And if you wanted to correlate it with the Ravens defense, I think you can do that too.
I do need to give a shout out to my boy Rashad Bateman, because he just plays the role that I want him to play, okay? I'm not ever saying that he was a great prospect. I just think that in best ball or as an add-on, he's fine.
He's the perfect best ball type of guy.
And that's why I've talked about him the last couple of years.
Where like you never really can predict when it's going to happen. And he's probably getting like 3 targets a game, maybe 4 if you're lucky. That's it. Does he find the end zone or not? So yeah, for me, it's pretty simple in this game. There's not really a lot of sneaky ways I'm trying to attack it.
Yeah, and I just want to give another vote of confidence. I think Addison's a good play at his price point and also not going to be played very much. I think I'm taking the Vikings plus 4.5.
I'm going to take the healthier team. I'm going to roll with Baltimore.
Dude, you and your injury stuff, whatever. Next game is the New England Patriots at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 2 quarterbacks that are top 5 in MVP odds. Should be a good game. The Buccaneers are coming off the bye, and they are 2.5-point home favorites. The over-under is 48.5. Yeah, both quarterbacks in this game I think are in play. Baker's 6,200. May is 6,400. The problem, I think, when I look at this game from a pace standpoint is both of these teams, you can't really run the ball against them. Like, they both have really, really good fronts. The Buccaneers, really, the entire year have been really, really good against the run. So it kind of like takes out a lot of like other plays, like Travion. We're still waiting on the news with, what they're doing in the backfield. But like the Buccaneers are 4th in pressure rate, 4th in EPA per rush, and number 1 in success rate on outside runs, which is like Travion Henderson's like bread and butter. So then I start like going through the options in this game, and I'm like, it feels a little bit thinner. Like it feels like a game where I would skinny stack Drake May and then figure out who I'm bringing it back. I just don't know if I love this game as like a true back and forth affair.
See, I feel the opposite. I love this game because neither defense allows you to run the football. And sometimes coaches will have that happen and they're like, you know what? Doesn't matter. This is what we do. This is our culture. This is the way our grandfathers meant the game to be played. So we're going to run the ball on 1st and 10 to set up 2nd and 8 to set up 3rd and manageable. That's how we play the game. These offenses and play callers have been willing to abandon the run when it doesn't make sense. You think about Baker. New England has faced the 5th highest opponent neutral pass rate this season. Even the last 3 teams that have faced them, the Titans, the Browns, and the Falcons, who historically are, have been more run heavy, all posted plus 3% or higher positive pass rate over expectations in this matchup. So I think Drake May's dropbacks here could really, really spike. And then if that is the case, we know what he can do with his legs, and his ability to hit the deep ball has been great this year. I mean, him and Sam Darnold are the top 2 in pretty much every metric you look at for deep passing. The Bucs have given up a ton of deep pass attempts and receptions so far this year. So on paper, this is an awesome spot for Drake May. And, the same thing is true for Baker. Like, you can't really run on New England. Baker will play with his hair on fire and extend plays and chuck it deep. So if those deep plays were hitting, I think this game could really speed up and go back and forth. So to me, that's the angle that I like here, is either a Drake May skinny sack, like you said, with, Diggs, or if you wanted to throw a dart on like Pop Douglas if Booty's out, or Hunter Henry, or whoever you want, and then bring it back with somebody on the other side. Igbuka makes the most sense. Or just play a Baker stack and then bring it back with one wide receiver on New England. That to me is pretty intriguing in the spot. So I'm pretty high on this spot. I like the over, and I think this is a good game environment where both quarterbacks can kind of interact in a way that pushes the other one.
I just wish that these teams were healthier. So as much as we don't love Ramondre for fantasy purposes, he matters, Bucky matters, Godwin matters, and really I think Kayshon Boutte matters. I'm assuming he's not. I'm assuming he's not playing, right?
Probably not.
Yeah, that just changes a little bit of the overall ceiling outcome for some of this. I went into a deep dive and what happened to the Buccaneers those 2 weeks before the bye. They won, but man, Baker scored 15 combined fantasy points in 2 weeks. He was banged up. Igbuka was banged up. They talked about that a little bit this week. Todd Bowles did, but teams started playing more man-to-man against them, and it worked really, really well. The issue I have with the Buccaneers is if you look at their wide receivers, we love Igbuka from a dynasty and NFL route runner. He's not super imposing. Tez Johnson, clearly not a very imposing player at this point.
You know who is?
Sterling Shepard?
Yes. Terrified to see him on the other side of the line of scrimmage.
It just, in man-to-man opportunities, the last 2 weeks, it's been 40% of dropbacks, which is a crazy high rate for Baker Mayfield. They just don't have they miss Mike Evans. That's really my main point, is they miss that overwhelming presence. So I think I'm a little bit lower on the Buccaneers side. I know they're coming off the bye. I think Egbegbue is fine, but I also know he's going to get played a lot as kind of the logical wide receiver on their side. So yeah, I don't love the mix of roster percentage. I do like May, I do like Diggs, and Hunter Henry's fine.
Okay. Well, we disagree. We'll see what happens on Sunday.
All right, so you're taking the over?
I like the over here, yeah.
Gosh. I want to say that Tampa Bay takes care of business at home. So I think I'll do -2.5 and with Tampa Bay, but
you're betting against the NFL MVP?
I would love for him to be MVP.
Kyle. You're a silly man.
All right, let's go to the Giants and Bears. This game's fun. I really enjoyed breaking down this game, thinking about both these quarterbacks, both first-round picks. Last week, they were our top 2 quarterbacks in our best plays article, and it was great because Dart had a great game. Caleb went off for 30-something points. It was amazing. Both of these teams play pretty fast. Chicago ranks 3rd in combined points per game, but here's the best part. All right, Betz? Their defenses are not great. On any metric you want to use, you can figure out a way to say Chicago, hey, you know what? You are dead last in yards per play allowed. That's great. The Giants, you cannot stop the run. You're 32nd EPA per rush. So there's lots of different angles to go here. I think you could stack up either quarterback. I think people want to play Monangai. After last week, we still have to kind of wait on DeAndre Swift's status, but there's a lot of different angles here.
Yeah, I mean, like you talked about, with all the data on the defensive side of the ball being so terrible, they are both bottom 10 in terms of allowing the highest explosive play rate to their opponents. So Chicago is allowing the 10th highest. The Giants are allowing the 8th highest. So when you think about, again, how come these offenses and defenses kind of interact together? We know the Bears can hit big plays. We know with Jackson Dart under center, the Giants can actually hit big plays too. And then you think about on the season, their contests in terms of like how many points they're averaging, both these teams top 10 in combined points per game. So I like the over here is kind of how I'm approaching this one. And I'm with you in that I do like the setup here. I was really expecting Jackson Dart to come in and be pretty popular this week just because of how well he played last week in terms of, on DK, he was the cash quarterback and he was great. But because he got a little price bump and now we have Mariota kind of floating around as like the guy, I feel like Jackson Dart isn't going to be completely overlooked, but I think he'll come in way lower than what I think he should be. So I love attacking the spot on both sides of the ball, but really with Jackson Dart, he's had such a high ceiling as a fantasy quarterback, rushing, running around the goal line. And because of the injuries that they've had, like you kind of just know where the ball's going. Like there's not really a third or fourth kind of option you're thinking about. It's either Wandale or it's Slayton. And if you wanted to punt it off with Theo Johnson, I think that's fine too. And then on the other side, I really love the spot for Rome Odunze. Anytime a player goes out and puts up a 0 in the box score, it makes a lot of sense to just kind of go right back to them, especially considering like the matchup here with the Giants where they play so much man coverage. They have injuries on the back end. They can't really cover. If there's going to be a wide receiver who pops up for a huge game here, I feel most confident it's going to be Odunze. So my preferred way to attack it is Dart stacked with one of his wide receivers and then bring it back with Rome Odunze.
I almost made him a slate breaker.
Oh, did you get the approval from Dad?
So that's what I wanted to ask you. I know you were on a quest earlier this week to get James Odunze to just, know that you're alive. That's really all it was. It's like this person named Matthew Betz is a living human being on planet Earth. Did he acknowledge you?
Not yet. Still working on it.
Okay, so I never tag players. I'm not trying to, mix in. I did have an attempt this week to get a player to talk to me.
Oh, who's that?
Brees.
What did you say?
So, Brees was in the news on trade deadline day. The crazy part about Brees is he's always logged on. Have you noticed that?
Oh, he is never logged off.
Dude, he is so it was a great tweet because he was responding to the fact that it was Nick Folk's birthday and the Jets tweeted out Folk, yeah, is what they said. And Brees responded to it and I responded and said, my man Brees, you're always logged. And he didn't respond.
He's like, who is this nerd?
I did throw in a stat about how he has the highest explosive rush rate in the league of 15 plus yards. He didn't like it.
Well, try again.
All right. Well, my man Brees. I think I had Melvin Gordon talk to me one time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, my kids won't know who that is anymore. But I like Odunze in the spot a lot. And I think it's one of those things where he's not going to get played as much because of the bias of what he's done, but also I look across our optimizer, I'm like, man, if I get a 6K wide receiver in this spot at under 10%, I'm going to be playing him. So he just makes a lot of sense. If you want to stack up Dart and he's the bring back, that's fine. If you want to stack up Caleb and start with the Odunze and, Loveland, that's a good spot too.
For sure, yeah, and we're still waiting on news they've had a bunch of kind of injuries, guys banged up. We're still not sure on Swift. Obviously, that would change a lot if he happens to miss, but it sounds like he'll go. And then Cole Kmet is in concussion protocol. We're still monitoring that. Obviously, if something would happen there where he's out, Loveland would become a stronger play. But for now, kind of just circle the Bears side of this and monitor the injury report. But I think we both agree Rome Odunze is our favorite regardless of what shakes out.
The weirdest part about the Giants is that Jackson Dart is he's must-watch TV. I love watching the games. It's spilled over from what we saw at Ole Miss of being able to create outside the pocket, all the scramble rate stuff. Did you know that the Giants have the lowest pre-snap motion rate in the NFL?
That's not that surprising.
Isn't it depressing? This is what you're getting out of somebody who is taking your poo-poo franchise in the worst spot, losing 2 of your best players, and everybody across the nation wants to watch him, and you're doing no favors for him.
Yeah, that is wild. Like how good the offense has been, considering that they are putting him relative to the NFL at a disadvantage without the pre-snap motion and play action type stuff. It's pretty impressive, honestly, on Dart's part.
Do you know which team has the second lowest pre-snap motion rate? I'll give you a hint. Their coach is a curmudgeon.
That could be a lot of players.
I know.
Is it the Jets?
It is the Broncos.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
It's just frustrating. Pre-snap motion isn't everything, but what happens if you don't do that, you end up doing a lot of like RPOs and screens and stuff, which is kind of what Bo Nix is. I just hate it, man.
Have you seen, shout out to the Coach Speak Index on Twitter. He clipped Sean Payton's most recent kind of, scuffle with the media. Somebody asked him a question. They're like, so this is Evan from, so-and-so and so, whatever. And he asks this question and he just stops him. Or his first name is Luca. I'm sorry. Luca Evans. And he stops and he goes, Evan. And then he gives this spiel and he basically tells this reporter, kind of, I'm smarter than you in fewer words. And at the end, he says, thanks. And I'm Luca. It's like, he didn't even know his name. Like, oh, Sean Payton, man, he is a curmudgeon. That's a good way to put it.
Dude, he's gotten less and less and less likable over time. That's what happens with old people. By the way, I got to share this story, okay? Emma's walking the dog down the street. If your dog happens to go to the bathroom in a neighbor's yard, what do you do, Betz?
You pick it up.
With, a doggy bag, right? It's pretty normal, right? That's like normal, common practice?
Yes.
Oh, this old neighbor came out of their house after Emma done it and started yelling at Emma, don't you dare let your dog go to the bathroom in my yard.
Oh my goodness. Have you met these people?
They're like eight houses down and they're old. So they're super old, never come out. They don't come out to play in the cul-de-sac with the kids.
You don't say. They seem so kind.
Let's just put it, they're on blast. I know that they're definitely not listening to this podcast.
Well, if they are, you're not welcome here.
On the Giants side, Wan'Dale and Slayton, I think they're priced appropriately for who they are in this offense. It's not the greatest thing in the world. This is a really good spot for both of them. So, any interest there?
Yeah, for sure. If you're stacking up Dart, I like both options.
The Bears are allowing the most schedule-adjusted fantasy points to slot wide receivers, which would be a Wan'Dale. But also, I think Slayton's in a good spot. There's been a couple of weeks where it's like almost a touchdown. So I think you can play either of those. Skinny stack with Jackson Dart, bring it back with Rome Odunze. That's my favorite way to approach this game.
Agreed.
All right. And I do like the over as well.
Go to the over. Let's go.
All right. And so you're just over everything so far.
That's the way you win in betting. You just bet over on everything.
Is that ESPN Bet took your advice?
That's the only wagers I placed there. All overs.
All right. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Applebee's new grilled cheese cheeseburger is so cheesy.
Want to try the cheese pull?
Yeah. I can't believe you get this and another entree.
Plus an appetizer for just $25. That's why I always come to Applebee's for their 2 for $25 deal.
Limited time price participation and selection may vary. Tax and gratuity excluded.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
All right, we're going to preview one more game. This is my favorite real-life NFL game. And I want to kind of ask you, is this a game in DFS that we can stack up knowing that Puka and CMC are very, very expensive? Even Matthew Stafford, this is the most expensive. So he is the reverse Buttlicker. His prices have never been higher.
You couldn't get that out with a straight face. I was actually really excited to come in here and recommend a Stafford double. The problem is, like you said, even like this season, he's been down, in the low 5Ks. And at that point, when he was doing what he's doing, he's able to support both his wide receivers and the prices aren't too bad. Now he is 6,500. He's 8K on FanDuel, which is just crazy. Puka is obviously priced up, and Devontae is not cheap. So it's kind of impossible. Why are you laughing so much?
I just, on a podcast, I called someone the reverse Buttlicker.
I'm trying to give this honest opinion, help listeners, and you're just dying laughing the entire time. Anyway, very expensive on the Rams side. So while I do love stacking Stafford in this game, it's almost tough to do. I'd almost rather just kind of play it as a one-off, like either play Puka or play Devontae, who Devontae leads the NFL in targets inside the 10-yard line. So there is multi-touchdown upside here for Devontae in this spot. But yeah, I love the Rams here. I think they put up a huge number considering what happened last time they played the Niners. And since that happened, the Niners have lost everybody on defense. Like, they have no edge rushers left. Obviously, we know Fred Warner's done for the year. Like, I think the Rams can come out here and really, really put up a big score. So I love all the Rams guys. The problem is they are expensive. So for me, it's kind of just a pick your spot here on one of the guys.
The Rams are number one in neutral pace. And last time we saw this team play, it was that Thursday night game, and we were like, what is going on with the Rams? They just couldn't execute the way that we wanted to. I do like them a lot in the spot, but like, how do you stack them up with Stafford being expensive, Puka 8,700, Devontae's really expensive too? It's really hard to double stack because I don't love stacking up Stafford with Kyron. So like, there's not really a cheap piece to add on here. So between Stafford, a double stack between Stafford, Puka, and Devontae, you need like 70 points.
Kyle, Evan. Were you not listening the entire time I just talked?
No, not at all.
I just said the exact same thing.
Oh, gosh.
I basically was like, yeah, these guys are really expensive. It's really hard to stack Stafford because it's so expensive. But I like just playing one-offs here. And you come back on, you're like, yeah, the Rams, I like this spot for them, but it's really hard to stack because they're so expensive. We are off to a terrible start today on the show. Yeah, it's
Do you know why? Because I put a memo on HR's desk.
I saw you do that. Good job. The show got off rails thanks to your curmudgeon-y neighbor. It's their fault. The take home here is we love the Rams. The problem is the price. So I will probably play a Ram in most lineups and just kind of mix and match exposure. Like, I think you could play Kyron, obviously. I think you could, certainly play Puka. But like I said, Devontae does have the touchdown upside as well. So I like all three of their main pieces. I don't think I'm going to play Stafford. It's just a price thing.
Yeah, if I want to bring it back, it would be Kittle on the other side. Are you playing any Mac Jones this week?
5K is cheap, man. And if you wanted to, you could play him with CMC, but if you wanted to just get leverage on CMC, a double stack of Mac Jones with Juwan Jennings and George Kittle is very, very cheap. And then you could just jam in studs elsewhere. So I don't hate it. I will say it kind of feels like at some point, like the bottom might fall out here for the Niners in terms of how many injuries they have. And the Rams can really rush the passer. Like, I don't know. I feel like the last time Kyle Shanahan did this to McVay in that Thursday night game, everything was just so quick, get the ball out quick. Like, I feel like the Rams will game plan for that better. So I don't mind the pricing, but I just think the Rams roll here. So I'm a little worried about the Niners side.
Everyone's showing is very popular too. I feel like this is a game where if I am going to do it, I'm not stacking up the quarterbacks. I'm correlating the two pieces and getting out of here. If you wanted to play Kyron and the Rams defense and get out of here, I'm also interested that way.
For sure. I mean, credit to Mac Jones for how well he's played this year, but we have a pretty big sample of other issues in the NFL. So, I mean, he could have a bad game. That's possible. So I don't mind that at all with the Rams defense.
I don't like the 3.5 line. I also consider myself someone that's usually good at paying attention. I didn't pay attention to you earlier because I was stuck in my own world. So that sucks.
That was so good.
Somebody listening was like, this game preview has not been helpful at all.
Certainly not. I would.
Okay.
I wouldn't even. I would just fast forward through this.
Yeah. I mean, people wanted to get to what we're getting to next, which is onslaught stacks. And if you wanted to play the Lions this week, they're 9.5-point favorites, which, man, I wish we would have saved the Lions for Survivor. The Bills are also 9.5-point favorites. We've used both of those teams, so we can't do that. How, like, the problem with the Lions is it ends up being you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown. And it's really hard to kind of consolidate everything that we get there. So how are you approaching that game if you wanted to use that team?
Yeah, I do think they're a really good spot to go to because, for the most part, like Amon-Ra is expensive, obviously, $8,400 on DraftKings. Jahmyr Gibbs is $8K. But there are cheap pieces here. Like you mentioned, you could play David Montgomery, hope he gets 2 touchdowns. Or you could play Sam Laporta as part of the stack. He's $4,400. I think he'll get played a little, but like compared to, Kittle's right there in pricing or just spinning up on McBride, I don't think you're going to see a lot of roster percentage on Laporta. I really do think the Lions can put up 30, 35 points in this spot. So I like Amon-Ra a lot. I feel like I say this every week now, but I like Jameson Williams at his price because the Commanders will give up a ton of deep, huge plays. We saw that, in prime time recently, and they're dealing with so many injuries. So I like the wide receivers here. I also like Laporta as a cheap play. That's kind of how I'm thinking through it. The problem with Jared Goff is like, do you think he gets pushed at all in this game?
No.
So then maybe you lean into the running backs.
Yeah, I don't mind if you want to play Montgomery and then Amon-Ra, or if you wanted to flip that and say Jameson and Gibbs.
That makes sense.
And just play those two. I don't think you need a commander. I mean, Debo's going to be the one that projects the best. 5,600 is a fine tag. But I'm okay if you just want to play 2 Lions and get out of there. Buffalo, are you just skinny stacking Josh Allen?
Yeah, I think so. And I think my preferred option would be Dalton Kincaid. The Dolphins have faced the highest target share to inline pass catchers this year. We saw that, they don't really defend the tight end at all. Charlie Kohler scored. Our boy Mark Andrews, 100% touchdown rate last week, Kyle. Come on. 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. So you can play tight ends against Miami, and to me, Dalton Kincaid has shown enough ceiling that even at 4,300 on DraftKings, I think he is still a good play, especially if you're stacking Josh Allen. I will say on FanDuel, he is priced up to like 6,200, I think it is. When McBride is right there for $800 more, that's a really tough click. He'll be low roster because of that, but for me, I think I prefer to play him on DK. But yes, I do like Dalton Kincaid.
Slate Breaker of the Week.
I'm pretty sure that this week's Slate Breaker is going to be brought to you by our HR department, as they contact me and said, hey, that wasn't safe for work.
You've been saying some things on this podcast this week that might get us canceled.
Buttlicker, our prices have never been lower.
Just, taking the original joke and then taking it 2 or 3 steps in a different direction. Sorry, Matthew Stafford. My Slate Breaker this week is going to be a player that you haven't really talked up very much. He hasn't really been on your radar. His name is Drake May.
Who?
He's 6,400. We talked about that game earlier. I think he's the perfect price point, which is different than a price point pivot. Perfect price point where it's really easy for him to be overlooked. We kind of talked about how there's the elite quarterbacks, Allen and Lamar, and then there's kind of the 5K range with Mariota, Mac Jones, Jacoby Brissett, all those dudes down there. So it's easy to kind of overlook Drake May, where you said earlier, like, hey, I'd be okay playing him in cash. The Buccaneers, they show 2-eye safety looks 56% of the time. He ranks 3rd in YPA, number 1 in passer rating, 3rd in fantasy points per dropback. It's pretty easy. You skinny stack Drake May in hopes that he also adds enough on the ground with either Diggs or Henry, and then you bring him back with somebody on the other side. So Drake May is somebody that I will be overweight the field. And as of right now, I am seeing him as the 5th or 6th most popular quarterback.
I love it. I like that game. I like Drake May. I'm going to go with the running back this week. I kind of already hinted at it. I think it's a great Derrick Henry week. As we always say on the show, if he's popular in cash, you play him in cash, you fade him in tournaments, you hope you get like the 80 rushing yards, no score game. When he's not going to get played in tournaments, this is when you fire away, especially considering the calendar is turned to November. It's kind of a silly like narrative, but like legit, his yards per carry in his career increases from September to October to November. There's multi-touchdown upside this week if Lamar's touchdown rate does regress. I mentioned some concerns with J.J. McCarthy, so if the Ravens can dominate possession here and just feed Derrick Henry in a positive game script, I really like this spot. Over the last 3 weeks, he's had 26, 22, 20 total opportunities, and when Lamar has played this year, he's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. The Ravens are finally healthy, and we know the splits when they win, he's way better for fantasy than when they lose. So I love Derrick Henry this week, 6,800 on DK, 8,400 on FanDuel.
Prop it like it's hot.
We are a scorching 17-1 bets in this segment on the podcast when it's just you and I.
Rich. God is a no ball.
And that we obviously did not count the Spencer Schrader one because that was a bonus. It was a kicker. He got hurt. No one cares about that anymore. I am kind of giving a little bit of a riskier one here.
I like it.
It's Jackson Dart, who we talked about earlier. His anytime touchdown. Often when I look at markets like this, I will ask bets. I said, hey, what would you put on this price? But his anytime touchdown, which is a rushing or could be receiving, is at plus 185. I'm finding some spots that it's over plus 200, but plus 185 is the one that I took. And he's hit this in, 1, 2, 3, 4 straight games in 5 of his 6 starts. So you know that his rushing ability is on the table, but this one I think is a good one to attack, knowing that, they don't have Scatterboot anymore around the goal line.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. He's very willing to scramble when they're getting close too. So at that price, I really like this.
The value.
What a value play, Kyle. Are you kidding me? I'm going to take an under because, well, that's what we do. I will take Alvin Kamara, and I feel like we've played this like 4 times this year in the DFS Pass. I will take under 35.5 rushing yards.
What a sad reality.
It really is, man. He has not hit this line since September 28th. It's November. He's been banged up on the injury report. The offensive line is dealing with major issues. Talifuaga, one of their first-round picks a couple years ago, probably not going to play in this game. They lost their starting center. I know Trevor Penning has been pretty terrible since he entered the NFL, but they traded him away. So they're going to have just a brand new offensive line taking on Carolina, who has shown at times this year they're very good in run defense. The game script and concerns with Tyler Shuck are certainly there as far as sustaining drives. So I will take under 35.5. It is so depressing because Kamara was incredible for fantasy for all those years, but I think everything here points to an under on Alvin Kamara.
And as we mentioned, our survivor pick is going to be the Broncos, and we hope that we are still alive, but we think that the Seahawks are one of those teams that if you needed to lean into them this week, that makes a ton of sense. The Bills make a ton of sense. What are your thoughts on the Panthers as a, at home, 5.5 point favorites? Rico, 2 pumps.
Man, 5.5 point favorites. That's wild to think about, but I think they're fine. If you haven't used the Panthers yet, I think that's fine. I think if I was going to rank them, it would be Bills, Lions, Seahawks, Panthers.
Okay. And obviously the Broncos is just way above them because you have so much confidence.
We're not talking about that.
Okay. All right. That's fine. All right, Betz. We're going to sign off. Tell everyone goodbye.
Yes, hopefully everybody enjoys all the football this weekend. Don't forget to wake up early on Sunday morning to watch Kyle's Falcons lose in Germany. We'll see you guys next week on Tuesday. Enjoy the football. Good luck in DFS. We'll catch you then.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
Applebee's new grilled cheese cheeseburger is so cheesy.
Want to try the cheese pull?
Yeah. I can't believe you get this and another entree.
Plus an appetizer for just $25. That's why I always come to Applebee's for their 2 for $25 deal.
Limited time price, participation, and selection may vary. Tax and gratuity excluded.
In Walmart's Huluville, everyone readied their cart. The early Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember are the 14th to the 16th of November. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?